From Multipax, I'm Karen Chia, founder and CEO, and this is Conversations 321. Today, we're speaking with Fabienne Sarfati, a business entrepreneur committed to social change. In a career that spanned over 30 years in investing and consulting, she's helped shape the business strategies of a large number of European companies and has sat on the boards of disruptive NGOs such as Ashoka, the world's largest network of social entrepreneurs, and Client Earth activist environmental lawyers. She's passionate about helping companies get to net zero. So welcome, Fabienne, and thank you for your time. So let's start. The world has turned on its head in 2020 because of the coronavirus. And because of this, where are we with the climate initiatives by governments?
The world of environmental sustainability is a different one with Joe Biden as an elect president for the United States, and assuming that is where we end. Some time ago, we would have said what is happening next is going to be very much dictated by the agenda of China around sustainability and Europe. Europe is having a number of very interesting experiments and will probably take the lead. It looks now that we're in a very different situation, and with the US joining back at the table and participating, basically recommitting to the Paris Agreement goals and announcing a climate finance package of $2 trillion to start with. We have a very positive situation for the environmental scene, and one that is likely to be much more impactful. Having said that, even though I'm very confident that all these three big powers, so China, the US, and Europe, will be actually successful in attaining the 2050 or 2060 goals for China, I am much less confident that we will make our target 10 years from now, 2030, to limit the temperature rise of our planet by 1.5 degrees. So it's a mixed package.
So at the end of the day, the responsibility of governments, the responsibility of businesses, where can they sync up? Where can the collision take place? Where can they sync up?
So let's look at what governments are doing, can do first, and then we can maybe have a look at business together, what the role of business in that equation is. About government, I'm going to leave the US aside. It's still very unclear at what speed and to what they will commit. But let's look at China, then let's look at Europe. Both are in very interesting, very expansive phases of defining what their climate agenda is. So China is a mixed picture. So on the one hand, they are committed to carbon neutral by 2060, and they're committed to peak carbon dioxide by 2030. And it's quite believable. So actually most experts see them on the way there. As you know, to be anywhere by 2060, you have to make the investments into massive infrastructure at least 30 years before, which means right now. So, there are already signs that this is happening. But then China also has the Belt and Road Initiative, which is the largest infrastructure project ever conceived in the world. It's it's decentralized, but if you try to add the numbers together, you land at about $1 trillion budget for it. So with the Belt and Road, they have, many things that go completely against the objectives that would allow us to meet, our 2030 target. For example, they plan to build 420 new coal plants, whereas the rest of the world is trying to close down everything they have. So a lot of very actually negative effects in terms of the concrete, building, etc. At the same time, they are investing more in renewables than all of the rest of the world together. So it's a complex, mixed picture. And I would say, the last year has given great hopes that China, the government of China, is going to not only put very big budgets to disposal, but also find good ways with the Belt and Road initiatives to foster private money and link capital flows into green energy.
What's going on for the European Commission itself and for the Europe sector in terms of climate initiatives?
So Europe has just signed off an agreement called the European Green Deal. And what that is a very ambitious initiative that is aiming to transform a bloc of 27 countries from a high carbon economy to a low carbon economy. So no coordination of that scale and of that complexity has ever been attempted to date. And every major aspect of the European economy will have to be overhauled to comply with that, from energy generation all the way to food consumption, you name it. So specifically, the goals are, similar to what China and the US through Biden have stated: net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And as far as Europe is concerned, a 50% cut in emissions by 2030. And there are many incentives to encourage the private sector investment. It is hoped that there will be substantial job creation in new high-tech industries like the renewables, electric vehicles, etc. The budget that the state has put together, the package, is 1 trillion euros. Of that, half is in the European budget, but a fourth is going to be loans to private industry, so to businesses, to orient them toward and encourage green investment. And then the other fourth is miscellaneous in the hands of the separate countries. It's clear already that 1 trillion euros is not sufficient, is maybe 1/3 of what will be needed. More importantly, it is hoped that private investment, so business and companies, are going to jump on that train and orient the biggest part of their investment towards sustainable and socially responsible investment.
And you've been a passionate advocate of companies getting to net zero. And it's interesting how you've drawn in the part about the European Union and what's happening with companies there. But how can companies accelerate this change, and how can they accelerate the process towards sustainability?
First of all, you're right. This is the right question, because I think, or at least I'm with you, I think business will have a major role to play in that dynamic. I don't think we can do without government frameworks and without government regulation, so it's the stick in the equation. But I think most of the dynamic, I've been involved in business for 30 years now and tried to create the right incentives for business. Most of the dynamic is going to come for business, very simply because businesses move faster than regulations and governments, and capital markets, financial markets, move much faster than big infrastructure programs that the government could put in place. So that is one reason why, the engaging business in the right way is going to be essential for success. Also, I think we are moving away philosophically in our societies from a classical dichotomy between public and private, and between sustainability against profit, and between regulation policies against fiduciary duties or against freedom, etc. So I think there is a lot of cooperation happening in the field. The two examples of China, the Belt and Road, and but more importantly of the European Green Deal are great examples of that.